Okay. Keep in mind, I am on a delay though. But so,
That's
all right.
fine.
So, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. All right, good podcast. That's a wrap.
We did it.
Welcome back, everybody. Those return listeners, new listeners, whoever may be listening, welcome back. We've missed you. Well, I mean, Vinny's missed you. So.
Well, what about you?
Halfsies.
All right, fair enough. Well, I agree. It's been a while, and in the immortal words of Thin Lizzy, the boys are back in town, and and here we are. I'm Vinny. That's KY.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna do some podcasts.
We're gonna podcast the shit out of your ears right now. So it's been 6-7 months, something like that. It's been quite a while. We've played around 5 video games in that time, probably.
Yeah.
Combined. So.
All open world.
Yeah. Yep. All open world. We have several things planned for today's episode. We're going to talk video games, maybe. Going to talk some music, because there's some big music news, too. What have you been up to lately, Ben?
Well, I have here a Twitch cigar that I got from a PAX thing that I went to for Twitch. And I don't know what makes this taste better or different than a regular cigar, but that is my souvenir and clear reminder that I was, in fact, at PAX, and I did, in fact, survive the PAX Pox. So that was a weekend for me. I got to see some indie games. I got to check out a bunch of things that I would have probably never wanted to see ever. But it was a good time. Overall, I did that. You and I both have a Switch and Zelda.
Yeah.
And
so
other
weird.
than that, I've been just, yeah, it's amazing that it's finally out. It almost feels like it's not real. Like I should have been waiting for this thing forever.
Yeah.
But it's here.
I think the last official episode we did was before they even announced it as the Switch. I think it was still the NX last we officially spoke. We had a live stream that was like a pseudo episode where we talked about a Nintendo presentation, but I can't remember when, because they announced it back in October or something, the Switch.
Yeah.
And our last episode was in August. So
Jesus.
weird how the times they are changing. So
That's a good Dylan. I've been listening to Neil Young lately, so I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not on board the Dylan train at the moment, but when I get there, I'll let you know.
All right, great. So, did you want to, well, tell me about PAX first. Let's start with that.
I'll try to give you the overview.
Okay.
Now, first of all, why don't we talk a little bit? You and I used to do PAX. We used to go to PAX.
Yep.
We've done 2 years together at PAX.
Mm-hmm.
Did you miss it?
Yeah, I miss it a lot. I lived in Boston for about a year, for those that didn't know, and every time PAX rolls around, all 2 times that's happened since I moved down to Texas, I miss everybody. I miss the city a lot. It's just a great opportunity to hang out with everyone, and I haven't. But I think next year is going to be the year. I'm going to try to make it back out to PAX East, if not earlier for some other reason. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
It's a great city, and it is a good time. I mean, this is the first year I didn't get sick, but I took it easy. I didn't make a video. I did like kind of a vlog. I took video. I talked over it later, and that just made my life so much easier.
Great.
I did have a good time though, and I ended up meeting a lot of like people. Like most people I met that were from Vinesauce were extremely supportive and cool, and I'm not just saying that. It was a shockingly mature convention.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, everyone was really great, and everyone was really like, just nice. So I really appreciated that. That was fun. I got a chance to meet a lot of people. So thank you guys for coming. If you're listening and you were there and I gave you a kazoo or a pin, good on you. If you didn't get a kazoo or a pin, I ran out.
Oh.
Fucking vultures, man. Fucking vultures.
Yep, selfish. I went to PAX South, so there's that. It's kind of like the dirty stepbrother of PAX East. It's only a couple of years old. I don't know what that means. But I got to see several games, but nothing, literally nothing that actually stuck with me. So there couldn't have been anything that good.
Right.
All the games I wanted to see were all at PAX East instead of PAX South. So, but San Antonio is a beautiful city, so I had a nice little mini vacation there. Did not meet any Vine Sauce people. That's okay. I was just down there for like a day, and it was fun. So, were there any particular games of the show that you wanted to talk about at all?
Not really. I mean, I'll tell you a few things that I saw. I didn't really get a chance to play anything because I just feel like it's not worth for me. It's not worth waiting online.
Yeah.
That's gonna be like an hour, 2 hours. So I just kind of look around. I saw Snake Pass, which is a very interesting indie game where you play as Snake.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
You not Solid Snake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you wiggle around and you slither and you do things in a very colorful. It looks like a Banjo-Kazooie kind of world. So that looked pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen previews of it, and I think the gameplay looks really clever. Be totally frank with you, I'm not crazy about the art direction. I think the snake has a really creepy look in its eyes, like really devoid of expression, just open constantly. Like, does it blink? I don't know. I should go back and watch a trailer a bit closer. There's just something missing in the face and the expressions. So.
You know what? I'm looking at it right now, and I can tell you it does blink, but it doesn't look like the eyes actually look at anything.
That's probably it. That's probably. I think you just nailed what doesn't sit right with me about the art style.
Yeah, it's a weird, uncanny thing. Like I like the environments, but the snake itself does not enter. It doesn't look like he looks like. It doesn't look like he's looking at anything in the environment. So like if there's a bug just to the right of the snake does not look. So yeah, I agree. That is a very strange thing.
Yeah, like if it just looked either where it's going or the direction you're pushing the stick, just anything to make it seem a little more alive would be very good.
That is a weird nitpick, but I like it.
Yeah.
I agree. It is a very strange and unsettling thing to look at. But
Sorry,
the world
I just
does look
ruined
good.
the game for you by pointing that out.
I'm not getting it now.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. They've lost your money. Not enough realistic snake people emotions.
Listen, the snake people don't get enough love in video games, so they're usually the enemies, you know. So if you're gonna do a protagonist snake, you got to do it right and make me, interested in your product, which is in this case Snake.
Snake. I made a small list of games that I wanted to see at PAX East. So let me throw them at you, and you let me know if you saw or played them. You ready?
Yep.
Iconoclasts.
Nope.
West of Loathing.
Nope.
Mother Gunship.
Nope.
SteamWorld Dig 2.
Okay, yes, and I spoke to the person who was on their PR team, and he is a really, really nice guy, and we were talking about the game for a while. That game, I can't wait.
I forget. I know you played Heist. Did you play the first one yet?
I did. I completed both of them.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what they do. The only other one of the four that I brought up, my super tiny list, Mother Gunship. Have you heard of it before?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
It's the
I looked up Iconoclast, and I have seen a little bit of that. It looks kind of cool. Mother Gunship looks very interesting.
It might bear resemblance to another game that we both of us are very familiar with. What does it remind you of?
Kind of looks a bit like. Let me see. I don't know. I was gonna say Descent, but then again, I don't know. It also looks like Tower of Guns a little bit.
There you go. It's actually.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah, it's the spiritual successor of Tower of Guns. So that's exciting.
Wow, he upped his graphic game.
Yeah, it looks much higher fidelity, which I think it looks great. I'm a little worried it might lose some of the humor, but at the same time, Joe is a great developer and a great guy, so surely he couldn't do wrong. I'm excited.
I'm upset. I didn't go to see Joe. I didn't know he was doing. Well, then again, I don't really keep up with a whole lot of people, so I didn't really know who was what at PAX.
Yeah.
So I kind of just walked around, and I will say this. It got bigger.
Even bigger
Like,
than
this
it
convention.
was?
Yeah, I mean, do you know where the booth was 2 years ago? There was a lot of empty space.
Now they're just...
They cut down on empty space. We're talking like booths just packed. It almost felt like they cut down on room to walk to fit more games.
Oh, geez. And not only that, but less space for maneuvering and probably a higher turnout every year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I won't see you guys next year. They don't need another body in that building.
Well, I'll tell you what. I didn't see Mother Gun Show. I saw some great games. There was some stuff that looked really cool from a distance, and Rame was there. I didn't see what he was demoing, but he was there, and I was just in a whirlwind because it was just too much to look at, too much audio-visual stimulation. But
Sure.
As I mentioned a few times on stream, the real problem was the weather. I mean, it was just in March, and there was a lot of snow. At one day was 15 degrees with a 1 degree wind chill. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, it was during PAX. It was 75 here. I just hung out on the patio, played some guitar, had a nice hard beverage, and said, I'm so glad I'm not in the same room with literally thousands of other people right now. And then I left and went to sleep.
Laughed?
Yep. It was great. It was a good day.
Did you eat some salami?
Yeah, I ate half a what would you call it? A loaf.
A loaf.
I was gonna say a loaf of salami. Yep.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I ate half a loaf of salami and had a nice food coma. Woke up, laughed some more. Just a lot of laughter.
While I froze to death, my balls floating in the river. Fucking just ice cubes like Cryonis in Zelda. Yeah, it's not fun, man. It's not fun. But I mean, it being the coldest I've experienced, like cold and in Boston ever. But getting home was weird because when I got home, I was like, wait a minute. It's not as cold. Usually it sucks in New York. Now I'm like, oh, this is like summer. So it made me appreciate our shitty weather in New York a little bit more.
There you go. Great. Yeah, it's funny because every year, like looking at the weather, when I did live in Boston, I'm like, you know what? I think it's going to be a good PAX for once. And then just, nope, fuck you. It's a blizzard. Every
last
time
year was
PAX
good.
Rolls in. So was it good last year?
Yeah, it was in April. They're doing April again next year. So, PAX is great, but it's very tiring. And you want as little resistance as possible when you're not at the convention. So, for example, if I am in freezing cold, it's going to make me less willing to want to do stuff because I'm just so tired from the convention. So last year, it was great because we were able to walk around and enjoy the city and enjoy the weather, and it was wonderful. So let's hope that next year is more like that and less like whatever the hell this year was.
Yeah, totally. So, Minionz. Long time coming. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone, I need you to procure your copy of Minionz. And when you hear the word, we are going to start right next episode. So.
Next episode, yes.
Yeah. Would you want to do some viewers mail?
We can do some mail now. Let's get with the mail now. So that way we'll reserve Switch and Zelda for later, so that way we have some variety early in the podcast. You know what I mean? You can't eat salami every day.
Can't eat a loaf every day.
A loaf of salami. That's the name of the episode. Watch.
Yeah, you called it. I wasn't
I
going to
know
say
how you name these things.
Yep. Okay. Let's see what we got. Shane asks. Quick question.
What?
Quick. What are your favorite albums of all time?
God, I was just thinking about this today. I really think my favorite album of all time is Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Fragile by Yes is super far up there. And let me just think of one more. Oh, that's scary. No, I'm gonna leave it at that. All right.
I thought you were gonna say "Fragile" by Nine Inch Nails. I was about to say, you all right?
No, no, I'm not okay.
Okay.
Next question.
Also
Sorry.
a good album.
I should have had this a little bit more organized.
This one's from Ziggy. I mean, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, this one's from Kawakji. Sorry, I'm just gonna make fun of everyone's names. Do you believe it's ever too late to attempt to learn an instrument?
It's never too late to apologize.
I would say no.
No, it's never too late. I've talked about this on my stream a lot.
Yeah.
I started at 18. Just pick it up, but start cheap. Don't get yourself a $400 guitar.
Yeah.
Start with like an $80 guitar, and if you like it, you like it. Start with maybe not a baby piano, but like a small little keyboard, and give it a shot. Never too late to learn.
Yeah. Piano is definitely a little bit harder to just pick up and learn because there's no equivalent of tablature. Like there's guitar tabs, anyone can learn it in about 2 minutes flat, and generally like pluck out a few of their favorite tunes. But with piano, it's a little bit tougher. This next one is from Roy, and actually Roy and about 4 or 5 others all asked this same question. So tell you what, I will give your answer and you'll give mine. The question is, what do you think is the best Marz Volta album? How well do we know each other, baby?
I know yours is Deloused.
Mm-hmm. You got it. And I know yours is Francis the Mute.
Yeah.
Man, we're a special duo. Yeah.
We've also talked about this very thing. I would say in the 7 or so years I've known you, can you believe 7 years?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's nuts. We've known each other for 7 years.
In the 7 or so years I've known KY, we've talked about Marz Volta quite a bit. And we always have, I mean, we have pretty similar opinions on the band, and we find common ground, and our favorite song is Nocturnicate, man. Whatever the fuck the name of the song is. Sorry. That's the worst song they ever did, Tourniquet Man. But we've had a lot of this discussion, and we enjoy talking about Volta, and I think, Deloused is great. I think that's my second favorite, but Francis was my gateway drug into Marz Volta.
Yeah, and Francis is probably my second favorite. What I really like about Francis is that it feels like a piece of history, which, like, just thematically, you could see it being a thing, that is part of someone's life and someone's journals and stuff, because it's based on a journal that their audio technician found shortly before he OD'd. Go figure. Yeah. So they wrote this album with a concept based on that, and Deloused was also a concept album, but it was much more just flat out fiction, and fantastical worlds. So I kind of liked that about Francis. It felt a little bit more grounded in reality thematically, even with more fucked up lyrics, like Talon scratching these suits and weird imagery like that. She was a mink hand job and sarcophagus heels.
Sarcophagus. Definitely not anything to do with Clipside of the Pink-Eyed Fountain.
No.
But for me, Francis feels like an organic album. It almost feels like it has... When I think about Francis, I think of a dark swamp. I think of like roots, gangly roots in the ground. And I don't know why. The album just has this weird evocative quality. It's not all good. I don't like the whole album. Sometimes I want to skip some of it. But it takes you on a journey, and it's a very intoxicating album.
It sure is. So I got an email from someone named Dale. I'm sorry, Scrungus Jimmy is his name. And it's literally just a mountain of rambling paragraphs and random pictures and GIFs. There was a question. Okay, here's the question. What was the biggest trip you've ever had? That's the question that I culled from the pile.
Okay, Mr.
If you want to
Scrungus,
talk about this, or you could say a friend's, because mine's going to be a friend's experience, probably.
No, we're not talking about road trips, right?
Correct. You were talking about hard drug trips, or I guess soft, but those trips tend to not be big. So the question was the biggest.
Okay.
How big was it?
listen, it's funny that this should come up because just yesterday I was streaming Turok 2, and for some reason, I was talking about a podcast I was listening to, and then I spoke kind of candidly, somewhat, about my own experience going to the Mushroom Kingdom. And
Okay.
I mentioned, I'll tell you a little bit, not too much, but I'll say this. I went to the Mushroom Kingdom twice. The first time was great. The second time was bad.
Okay.
And the first time I went to the Mushroom Kingdom, the walls melted, the ceiling was waves, and there was the painting with the two fingers. What is that? I always forget what it's called. Where they're like about to touch. God is about to touch Adam.
Oh, it's called the
Is that a Michelangelo?
The Bad Testament touch.
But do you know what I'm talking about, or
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, no, I know exactly
Okay.
what you're talking about.
So, but the fingers would not touch, but they kept moving. Music was wonderful. It washed over me in waves. I saw light in waves. I saw many inner projections of my psyche around me, and I was having trouble standing. But once I got standing, the adventures I went on were magical, and I felt pretty invincible. It was probably very dangerous, but it was a good time. It was very, very weird. I thought I was going to handle it strange and not be able to handle it right, but I handled it very well.
Good.
It's just, unfortunately, the second time, there were a lot of external factors that turned very negative, and it kind of put me off from doing a similar thing. It's been about 6 years, and I haven't done anything like that since.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about that. The reason a lot of people do hard drugs is to just totally trip out their minds because reality is either so dull or depressing, just as an escape thing. When it preys off of your mental state so heavily, that's a dangerous thing. So now, for me, I'm going to relate two very short stories. One is me. Or one a trip that I had where it was a synthetic marijuana, which is like heavily unregulated. You never quite know what it's going to be like. And it was actually, that was what made me stop smoking pot. I was never a pot head, but I'd done it from time to time. After this experience, that was it. Basically it fucked my brain real good. So it was just like any other trip, except the notable exception of pain, like almost like lightning bolts shooting down all four of my limbs simultaneously, just up and down for about 2-3 hours straight. And it was horrible. Like the people I was with, I freaked out for a second because I was in so much pain. I was like, you have to bring me to a hospital. Something's wrong. They're like, no, sometimes people just freak out on this stuff. Don't worry about it. And they were right. You know, I ended up being fine. I remember my heart was beating really fast too, but really scary because otherwise mentally it wasn't too intense. It was like a strong marijuana trip, but with a lot of pain. So that was scary. I had my girlfriend at the time come pick me up, and the night got better from there, but it was rough and I felt out of sorts for about a week. The second trip that I'm going to relate real quick, this was a friend of mine who tried salvia, a lot of salvia. And he spent about 30 or 40 minutes straight against a wall that had a line like painted on it going like kind of horizontal. It was just the design of the wall. He was pressing himself to the wall and turning his body at different angles, just saying, I need to get parallel. And he would just say this over and over, just I'm trying, I need to get parallel. And he did that for literally 40 minutes straight, and then he snapped out of it and was like, oh, that was weird. He didn't even remember it, like, which is strange, is usually you remember those trips, the salvia trips. But yeah,
who from Nintendo watched this happen and thought up A Link Between Worlds?
There you go. So yeah, interesting question. But
I'll just say I tried the synthetic stuff as well. Did not like it. It was a shorter thing than I was used to, with a synthetic pot, and I didn't really care for it. I thought it was really weird, and it made me very like dry mouth. Like we're talking extremely dry mouth.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't care for it either. It didn't give me like a really negative thing. I mean, one of the reasons I stopped overall is because of paranoia, negative feelings, kind of me getting absorbed into like that kind of stuff. But I'll say that the synthetic stuff was worse. absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember last time I did actually have a really strong trip on just plain old natural marijuana. I got the same thing. I got extremely strong cottonmouth. I remember me and my girlfriend at the time huddled around the refrigerator, the water dispenser with glasses, just repeatedly filling up and drinking, going, "Oh my fucking god, water's so good." So, and we did that for about 20 minutes, and it was good. It was a good time.
Sure. Okay.
Next question's from Captain Kibbles. And actually, this is another one that we had about 5 or 6 different emails, all asking the same question. So, he wants to know, have we ever been involved in or interested in eSportz?
No, but I've seen a sign called eSportz merch when I was at PAX, and that became a bit of a thing.
Did you get some sweet gamer glasses to see better and to see faster?
That's right. You see faster at a higher frame rate in real life.
Yeah.
They're tinted yellow and Appalachian magenta.
Nice.
They're not very good for anything other than seeing a computer screen, however, so I wouldn't recommend them. I'm not interested in esports too much, but I do like Counter-Strike, and if I were to get interested in an esport, it would be probably Counter-Strike, because I do play a lot of the competitive mode, which is me, an hour a day, sometimes less. And it's fun, but I just don't know if it would be something I would really, really invest a lot of time into. Similarly, I'm not really into sports in general, so that doesn't translate to my video game interest. I do like speed runs. I like watching those. Yeah,
speedruns are pretty fun to watch. For esports, I played a lot of Melee in college, so there's that. Otherwise, not really. I had my 2 college roommates when League of Legends came out. They literally skipped every single class and ended up dropping out that same semester because they skipped literally every single class to play League of Legends. So I played a little bit myself too, and it was fun, but usually heavily competitive things like that just make me feel uncontrollably angry. So I try not to get too invested into it. So
it is, but that's another reason why people like sports. It's because of the emotional factor. It riles you up, and it gives you an excuse to go a little crazy. Sometimes you need that in life. You go to a stadium, you root for your team, you want to see the other team's skulls get bludgeoned, and you watch football. But like in this case with Counter-Strike or Melee, it's more just watching 2 teams sit there, and then eventually one of them wins digitally. So yeah, I mean, there's some good to it. I think I could watch it, but it's just not my thing either. I think I agree with KY on that one.
And also, which breakfast item do you prefer, waffles, pancakes, or French toast?
I like pancakes.
Oh, really? Huh. Okay, mine's French toast.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good. But if I had to choose...
You would choose pancakes?
Yeah.
I think I would choose pancakes as my last one. So.
Okay.
Let's see.
Traitor.
This next question is from Rake Me. Rake Me.
Good Nirvana song.
Rake me again. Let's
Controversial.
see. Stream as intro breaks. This is another Marz Volta question. Oh, wait, no, hang on. You guys haven't failed me in your music taste yet, so I believe you guys can point me in the right direction. There was a music in here, or a question in here somewhere. Oh, I just wanted to ask for more music recommendations from you guys, because every song you played on stream as intro or break has led me to some good bands. Do you have any recommendations right now that you just feel like tossing to the crowd?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have a Spotify playlist with all my favorites. It's like something like 30-something hours of music, and if you want, you could just find that on Spotify. It should be just called Vines Sauce. There's all the stuff I like on there. But lately, my favorite, like I said, if you want to check out the Beach Boys, check out Pet Sounds. On the Beach is a great Neil Young album I've been listening to. I've been listening to Billy Bragg lately, who's like a really interesting Brit dude. And I guess, obviously, for me, Marz Volta. If you're going to listen to Marz Volta, start with Deloused.
Yeah. Let me see. The only new one I would really recommend, or it's not even new, but what I've been listening to lately and getting into, there's a group, a side project called Sisyphus that I've been enjoying a lot. They were kind of filling the Gorillaz shaped hole in my heart until the new Gorillaz album, which they finally announced. One more month, we're gonna have humans in our ears, and I'm excited. Humans. So that's exciting. But anyway, Sisyphus is a collaboration between Chicago-based rapper Serengeti, folk indie electronic rocker Sufjan Stevens, and electronic producer Sunlux, and it's very good. The album is called Sisyphus. It's just a self-titled album, and it's good. It's just kind of electronic hip-hop with some dreamy Sufjan vocals, and it's good.
Cool. That sounds interesting.
Let's see. Okay, this one is from Magnus. He asks a couple of questions. 1, what's the best Marz Volta album? We already hit that. 2, 2 of my favorite Findzos streams are KY streaming Dropsy and Vinny streaming Hylix. But would Vinny consider streaming Dropsy and KY Hylix? Would you consider Dropsy, Vinny?
Yeah, it's a clown game, and I heard good things about it. It definitely would be on my consideration list if my hands weren't so full and I didn't have like Mario RPG planned for the future. I would say sooner rather than later, but I'm gonna say later rather than sooner.
Yeah, Dropsy is super charming. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. You'll like it. It's very good. As
Wet
for
clown hugs.
Yeah, warm, damp hugs. As for Hylix, I've actually seen the game. I saw it at, I think, Fantastic Arcade, down in Austin, and it was really trippy and cool. And I would certainly consider streaming it sometime. And last question from Magnus. He asks, "Am I wrong for thinking Lonerism and Currents are better than Inner Speaker?" And I would say no, you are not wrong.
No, you're not. Inner Speaker is a little more amateur, but it's got some great melodies and stuff, and it's like, if you're into classic rock, Inner Speaker is definitely going to be your thing. Lonerism feels a little bit more contemporary, it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Inner Speaker Currents feels very contemporary.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'll say too is that Inner Speaker definitely has that kind of classic freshman album feel where it's almost like a prototype for their sound and their style. A lot of bands have that feel to their first album, like Metallica's Kill 'Em All, compared to some of their other things later on. Or even just the second
Nirvana.
album, Bleach. I was going to say exactly. I guess even Deloused in a way, just because they got so much deeper and unafraid for their later albums to go into the more abrasive sounds. So that's the feeling I get from Inner Speaker. It feels like a proto album. You know, it's the freshman release followed by the classic second album, which is of course Lonerism. So.
But what do you like better between Lonerism and Currents?
I still like Lonerism a little bit more, but it's close. I like them both a lot.
Me too. I do like Currents. It's a fun album to listen to. It's fun to move around to as well. But I got to be honest, Lonerism, that was a very specific emotional state that I was in when I discovered that album. And I'll just always have that connection to it. But I also just think it's a great album with great melodies and an amazing weird sound effects on synthesizers and guitars. It's just a really cool sounding album. And I think a lot of people that I've showed it to instantly were at least into one or two of the songs. So that's pretty cool.
This question is from Ulki. He asks, question for literally only Vinny since KY doesn't even have ears. Have you ever gotten very far into a musical piece only to start over because you weren't satisfied with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you don't do that, there's something wrong. I mean, it's not like every song that Mozart shit out or Van Gogh put on a painting or any other super, stereotypical genius person. Really, any artist I can think of will create something and stick with literally every single thing they make. Almost every great artist I can think of, I 100% guarantee will abandon things almost immediately if it's not, going anywhere that they care for. And I think that that's healthy too. As a composer, you want to, that's with that security, you'll experiment more. You'll get your sound a bit more because you're never feeling like you have to make a final product on every single thing you do, if that makes sense. So
yeah, I agree with KY. I'd like to just share a couple of quick little anecdotes. First is on this album that we have coming out, there's like 6 songs that we, maybe more, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 that we just didn't use. So we abandoned them, and I wasn't happy 100%. Others weren't happy with them. So yeah, there's songs that I thought were cool, but maybe not for the album. And then on a similar note, there are times when I have a really good first part, like a verse to a song, but I can't figure out the chorus, and I'll come up with something, and then a day later I'm like, that's not it, and I'll just throw it away. And then a week later, I'll be in the shower, and I'll be like, oh, this'll work, and then I'll go back and just fuck with it more, and then sometimes that works. Mm-hmm. So, like KY said, if you're trying to create, you're also admitting, just by the fact that you create, that you throw away a lot of good stuff, or at least stuff. It might not be good. That's why you throw it away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I would take some advice from that I actually adopted recently from Ben Prunty. He is the composer of the soundtrack to FTL. I follow his Twitter.
He's the best.
He's really good. I follow his Twitter and talk with him every once in a while. And he recommends that you start and you have 2 folders on your computer if you compose on the computer, I guess. Or I guess you could use manila folders if you compose on paper. One folder just being for brand spanking new projects that you just started working on. And everything starts in that folder. And then once you realize it's going to be something greater, then you move it over to the other folder, which is labeled, final projects or, finish projects type thing. So you have your rough folder where you just start everything there, and then you only finish the things that graduate into the better folder, and everything else is just a thing that you started, didn't go somewhere, just whatever it is. So don't be shy. You can create total shit, and that's totally fine, and you should. And just abandon it and don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's more about making lots of music rather than trying to make every single thing you do work, even when it's not working. So
I have a shoebox of tapes right here. I keep them near me, and there's like 15 to 20 tapes of just ideas, and guess what? 99% of them suck. Mm-hmm. But that's I've been playing guitar for about 13 years now, and that's my 13 years or a little bit less of development to get to the stuff that I think is worth recording. So yeah, you gotta throw out a bunch of shit, but just keep doing it. KY is definitely not misleading you. Throw out your darlings.
Yeah.
I think that's what or kill your babies, kill your darlings. There's like some weird expression.
Yep. This next question is from Connor, and this is more for you. Most of the songs I write are like instrumental, digital stuff. You write a lot more rock music, so to speak. So Connor asks, do either of you have any tips or methods you could share on writing verses to songs? Specifically verses, I should note. Connor doesn't have any issue with chorus down, lyrics, notes, but about verses, he has a hang-up. So do you have any advice?
I don't think about it most of the time. A lot of times I get them from dreams or just from jamming or from humming to myself. I don't think about it, but a verse I think a verse should propel a story or should propel the idea and give you new information, and the chorus should be the soul. Maybe look at it like the verse is the intellect and the chorus is the soul. And the soul requires a bit of repetition. I think the verse you can get away with slightly longer form melody until you get to the chorus. That's if you're going for traditional kind of rock and roll, rock pop. So other than that, no, there's no real, I don't know. I don't actually have a kind of a method. So sorry, Connor.
The only thing I'll say is that a verse is really not all that different from a chorus, other than that it has different words each time. So that's
or as Dave Grohl once said, every Aerosmith song is just like 4 choruses in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Or something like that. He said something about Aerosmith. Yeah, it was very similar.
Yeah, you can just write choruses, write 2 choruses per song, and then for one of those choruses, just change the word each time it comes up. Maybe make each verse have a different instrumental twist to it, like add an extra guitar line, or just change it up. I've even heard a cool trick a couple times where you'll have a verse and a chorus, and then later sing a verse over the structure or music to the chorus. So like where the viewer is expecting another, or I keep saying viewer, the listener is expecting another chorus, but then you get into a new lyrical intrigue, I guess. So like that's a very popular tool that Death Grips likes to use. They'll have their verse, their chorus, verse, chorus, and all of a sudden another chorus, but with different lyrics. So it's a good way to switch things up.
It's also a good way to lose half of our audience. Mm-hmm. I'm sure not many people want to know how to write a song, but if you do, this is a good episode for you.
Yeah.
We have more questions about Marz Volta albums?
I think there might have been 1 or 2 more. I'm going to skip them, though. This is from, I don't know how to say this, Jim McGeen, I think. Hey, guys, I was wondering if...
Call him Ziggy.
Ziggy. I was wondering if either of you owned a record player, as you're quite into music. How would you know? Oh.
I don't. I have records, but not a record player.
Same.
One day I'll remedy this.
This question is from Tony. This is another What's Your Opinion on eSportz? Next question. This one is from Lorenz. 2 questions for both of you. How did you end up finding your band members? I can't seem to find anyone in my area willing to put the time and effort into being a musician.
I can't believe how many music questions we're getting.
I know. It's like a solid 90% of these questions.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to an eSportz convention. We were listening to a Marz Volta album, and then I found them.
Nice.
By the way, here's how you write a chorus. You just repeat, Papa don't preach, Papa don't preach. No, I met Mike, and I don't know, I guess I kind of just got lucky. I met Mike in college, and then we became friends, and he eventually learned how to play drums. Mm-hmm. I went through a few bands, and then Joe is a producer at the studio. He's not really in the band. And then Billy is my friend from high school. He's not really in the band also. They're both in another band. But I borrow their services from time to time, but they're busy. They have full-time jobs and stuff. So I kind of don't have a full band, but they're good people. We get to play every now and then. It's kind of nice.
So you and Mike are to Red Vox as Omar and Cedric are to the Marz Volta Collective.
Actually, yes.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. I don't have any good advice for this either. Every band I've ever been in were people that I knew, just friends that happen to also play music. So sorry, I don't want to say you're shit out of luck. I'm sure you could come up, find other musicians just off the cuff and start up a band. But yeah, Craigslist, you'll see ads saying, hey, I'm looking for, a guitarist or a singer or whatever. So you could try those and try not to get killed. But yeah, sorry, I really don't have any good advice for this one. Don't give up.
Maybe go to a rock show and just talk to people.
Yeah. Go to a rock venue, just a small show, and whereas everyone else is in the crowd, sit at the bar and see who you can talk to and see if anyone there happens to play music, and you too will have a rock band. Second question from Lawrence. Would you give up streaming for a career as a musician?
No, because I like sharing video. I don't want to stop playing video games, but I really enjoy sharing them with an audience. So even if streaming became a less thing, like say for me, say a music career ever did happen and it became like you got a tour and here's a big kind of opportunity for me, I would take the opportunity, but I would still find time to stream whenever I could because I genuinely enjoy it and it makes me feel good.
Good. For me,
how about you?
It's hard to. I mean, it's a weird question for me because streaming isn't really my career. I just have a normie job that I work at full time. So
Yeah.
I would give that job up to do music full time. Absolutely. I'll say that. As for streaming, I guess I'll interpret the question as if I had to give up streaming in order to make music a full-time career. I probably would. I hate to say it. Sorry. My viewers are listening. But
they're flabbergasted.
Yeah, sorry. I just offended so many people. I would give up okay, I'll put it this way. If you were to tell me that either giving up streaming would give me a music career or giving up music would give me a streaming career, I would probably give one of them up to make a career out of them. Not everyone, and this isn't a jab at you in any way, but not everyone has that kind of like luxury or privilege that they can do both simultaneously. Like I definitely can't do both. When I'm working 45 hours a week, I'd come home and I either stream or I do music just because literally that's all I have the time to do. So
yeah, and I can relate to that sentiment from years ago when I was at my job in Jersey City at a bank. The band was gone for a year. There was no band for a year. I worked there for a year, no band for a year. So it's hard. I mean, I feel for you, and I agree with KY. I mean, if you could do a career in one thing and be happy in that one thing, other things are going to drop by the wayside. And I do have the luxury to do it, and I'm lucky and grateful that I do. But it also that kills a lot of my relationships. KY knows how hard I am to get in touch with. I mean, it's also, I'm really pushing for both of these things to work out because I love both of them so much. Video games and streaming are great. Music is my soul. So I guess ultimately I wouldn't give it up. But music would probably be a little bit more important because we die soon, when life ends. And I want to contribute more meaningful things to the world, which that for me is music, which is probably why I picked the guitar back up in the first place. Yeah. Also, memes, just in case anyone forgot.
I was going to say you have to choose between meaningful and memingful. So that's your choice. That's your choice. Yeah. Last question from Cooper. Cooper asks, says that he just built his first gaming PC. What are some great game recommendations for a guy with a new PC that aren't Half-Life 2?
Ooh. Geez. What do you got, KY? Anything?
I can think of a few. I would certainly recommend Doom. Just the new Doom 4, or whatever you want to call it, Doom 2016. Just because I feel it's just more fun on keyboard and mouse. I'm one of those people. It just feels more fluid to me. So I feel like the PC is the right platform for that. And it looks beautiful and it's really fun. So it's a good, does everything for you game for your first PC. It flexes
I like
the
that.
graphic muscles and the fun muscles.
I agree. It's a really beautiful looking game. That was one of my games of the. I think that might have been my favorite game of last year.
Yeah, it was on my list too. I came up with a top 10 list at one point, and I'm pretty sure it was on there. The other one I would recommend, another one from last year actually, is The Witness. If you like puzzles, excuse me. It's beautiful and it's challenging, and it's good. It's relaxing. Frustrating sometimes, but relaxing. It's a good game. Are there any of that games that you would recommend?
Yeah, I would probably give The Witcher 3 a look at. Okay. If you've got the computer to handle it. It's a very beautiful game, and it's one of those games that you almost want to just travel around to look at things. So easy to get lost in that world. I would recommend Witcher 3 pretty highly. And I'm sure there's more. I'm sorry I can't think of them at the moment, but there's definitely more.
It's one of those questions that when you're put on the spot for it, you're just like, yep, I got nothing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then like hours later, you just think of like 10 of them rapid fire. So we'll
Exactly.
get back to you if anything else comes up. So and that wraps up our listeners' mail. So let's see what good your memory is. What email do they send it to if they have mail for future segments?
2onthevine@gmail.com with a number 2.
Almost. It's 2.
2 on the Vinecast.
You got it.
2 on the Vine Pod.
Yeah. 2onthevinecast@gmail.com. Send us your emails and we will answer them. So, yeah. We
Thank
talked
you,
about
KY, for filtering the emails, by the way, and going
Yeah.
through them.
Yeah, no problem. We had something planned too. We were going to listen to the new Gorillaz track. There's actually 4 of them, but we were going to do one live and just talk a little bit about it. But we did just also have a half hour of music. Did you want to do that still anyway?
I mean, we could do it. I think I'm okay with doing it because we're going to end up... it's only a few minutes. I mean, and this is a music episode. Why not? We'll do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do the thing. So we are
Okay.
going to be listening to Saturn's Bars by Gorillaz from the album Humans. That's
Right.
coming up. We're using the 2D video because there's 2 videos. There's the 360 one and a 2D one. We're using the 2D one. And we're going to start at 2:22. So if you're going to listen along, because still haven't decided if I'm going to edit it into the podcast, sync it up on YouTube, 2 minutes, 22 seconds, and we're going to hit play and listen and talk a little bit. So are you ready
Okay,
to
now
go?
this is the Minions movie we're watching, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
So
No, that's next time. Let's I'm ready. I'm at 2:22 and I am prepped and I'm primed. I've heard this once. And I have feelings about it already, but let's check it out. And we're going to talk over it, right? We're going to have our impressions while we're... Okay,
yeah, we
cool.
can talk while
I'm
it's
ready.
going on. Otherwise, it's just 2 minutes of dead air on the podcast. Your drives will be so awkward. So, all right.
Okay.
You want to do 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1.
Good. I have not listened to this, by the way. This is brand new for me.
Okay. You're going to have some immediate reactions, I think, about the vocal stylings.
I like the sub bass that's going on, like the super duper low octave whoops.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's
What-
happening.
What accent is that even?
Life.
Life!
All my life.
All my life.
I don't know.
Now, I do really love the super fuzzy bass, like that drone under everything. That's just a nice
I'm
texture.
a huge fan of the... I love that, and I love the... In the left ear, the synth, that's like really like... what's the word I'm looking for? Digitized? It's very low quality.
Yeah, lo-fi.
Lo-fi, thank you.
And there's Murdoch just spinning around in space naked.
Why not?
The production is super high quality. Definitely miles beyond The Fall, which was made entirely on an iPad.
Yeah, that wasn't even... I don't even consider that a full album.
See, I like it, but it's definitely not on par.
I like it too.
Yeah, this is super... It's like Plastic Beach in space.
Now, how do you feel about the auto-tune?
I can appreciate the stylistic choice when someone uses autotune intentionally, for, just for aesthetic, but otherwise I'm not a fan. There's Damon.
Yeah, I'm not a fan even stylistically, to be honest, but I'm okay with it in this song because I like the song so much, and I love when Damon comes in.
It's
By
a
the way,
groove.
I love Damon's vocal mixing, like the way they mix his vocals to make him 2D.
Yeah.
Primo.
It just super, ethereal, Oh, that's apparently Murdoch's voice, or at least he's talking to it.
Yeah, no, that's still
Nah,
Damon.
it's still Damon.
But that's Murdoch's penis.
Yep. What? Yeah, it's a nice track. It has a lot of layers. A lot of layers. Like the vocals, the whoas in the background, and then that arpeggio been going on like the whole song, and the fuzzy bass. Just so much going on.
I like the little melodic hook too. It feels classic Damon.
Yeah.
While also going in like a new direction.
It has, and the hook too. The all my life. That's a hook.
That's
a hell of a hook.
It's in there.
It's gonna be in my head. I'm gonna wake up at 3 a.m. and there it's gonna be. Was that it? Oh, that was it.
That's Saturn's
tune.
Bars.
I like it. My first impression is I like it. It's sorry, go ahead.
No, I like it too. I'm not crazy about the auto-tune vocal thing. I've never been a fan.
Yeah.
And I know it's a stylistic choice. It's just it brings back to a lot of bad memories. But for some reason, I'm kind of okay with it in this song. So it would have been nice to hear, like, of the 4 songs they released, there's a lot of guests.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to hear a little more Damon. That's just my thoughts. However, Saturn's Bars, I think, is a cool fucking song. I like the other one a little bit better, Andromeda.
Oh, yeah. I haven't listened yet.
So check that one out when you get a chance. That's a good one.
Yeah, I appreciate I can understand the choice of autotune, but like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I understand why they do it, and I can appreciate it a little bit more when it's intentional and not just, a touch-up type thing. It's not like Cedric's vocals on Octahedron. That was pretty bad, but in the case of but in the case of this, I understand why they did it, even if I'm not crazy about it. Damon sounds like Damon. He sounds real good as always. I'm gonna stick with my verdict earlier that it sounds a lot like Plastic Beach in Space, based on all the themes going on. Like this one's talking about Saturn, the song called Andromeda, another song called Ascension. It all seems very kind of spacey or sci-fi-y, except with all the hip hop focused guest vocals going on, the grooves, the kind of heavily produced hip hop grooves underneath the different layers of songwriting. So, Plastic Beach in Space, that's what it is. I like it.
That's a good way to, I like that. That's a good apt description. Also, I'll say that I like Jamie Hewlett's art. Like the combination between the 3D and Jamie's art is cool. I think that's a kind of a layover. I mean, they've been doing that for a while, but it definitely has more of that Plastic Beach vibe that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's just good to catch up with these characters. They're not real, but they have a little storyline going, and I'm going to enjoy watching the video in full and really taking it all in. So it's good to have the Gorillaz back, man. It's been too long.
It's a hell of a lot more lighthearted than other story bands like Coheed and Cambria, or since they're the big fucking theme of this podcast, the Marz Volta.
Right.
It's nice to, like you said, like to have these characters. It really feels like we've been with them all along and seeing them grow. And I know almost jack shit about their story, to be honest. I know that like Noodle has some weird cyborg assassin clone, and
right.
Yeah, and I saw like the teasers that they had leading up to all the big news recently. But point is, it feels like there's a life to them, even not knowing that life, and that's kind of cool. I don't know where you paused, but shit, what's the drummer's name? Drawing a blank.
Russell,
thank you. Russell's wearing a shirt that says "It's not Rail."
Rail, yeah.
Rael. I've just been staring at this. It's been wiping my mind for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's
also,
Rail.
Speaking of Noodle, do you remember Chrono Cross Baby Daughter Clone?
No, I actually blanked out a lot of Chrono Cross from my memory.
Okay. You know what? That's an appropriate reaction, sadly.
No, I didn't hate Chrono Cross as much as I like to give it shit. But no, I don't remember that.
It deserves shit. Trust me, it deserves shit. I played it last year again, and it has some problems, but the story is so convoluted. As long as they don't start going into Baby Daughter Clone with the Gorillaz storyline, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's a cool song. I'm excited for the full album, and it's good to have him back. And now I'm wondering, by the way, you reminded me, what should the name of this episode be? Because we have a few options. It could be Marz Volta, Ziggy, or what was the other one from before?
Loafs or Loaf of Salami.
Loaves of Salami.
Which is the one I was going to stick with even before you brought up the episode name. In my mind, I silently thought to myself, that's the episode name. So that's...
Yeah, I know your methods.
Yep.
I know how
I stole
you
it
operate.
though. I stole it from another podcast I listen to called Video Games Hot Dog. They do the same thing. So I stole it from them. Yep. Yeah,
Good
they just
shit. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we should probably get into some video games. That's what most of the viewers want. That's what you want from us. Video games, not this music stuff. Who listens to music anymore? Music is
There will be.
It's so 2005. So
there will be more video games on this podcast in the future. It's just at the moment there's a severe lack of video games. Like, definitely not the Switch and Zelda. We don't. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about it?
What's the Switch? Is that a game the kids play with light switches, or?
No,
or
it's a machine devised that has ice cubes in it, right? It's this like little hand machine that you put ice cubes in and you rotate it around.
Oh,
and you can milk a cow with it. It's designed to play 1-2 switch.
A cubey tumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know those. You call them Switch?
Yeah, you just got to put ice cubes in it.
Switch. Okay. Does the Switch make toast? Can I?
Yeah, man. Originally, I thought this thing was going to be called the Nintendo Crust, and I thought it was going to be a toaster. But then when they revealed it, it kind of does look like a toaster. And then you just put your Switch inside of it.
Yeah, get it nice and warm. Yeah, this is the only toaster where the bread gets warmer when it's not inside the toaster. So it's kind of interesting. Do you want to just talk about the console first, or you want to jump right into Zelda? How do you want to do it?
Let's talk about the console. I want to know, because I've got my problems with it.
Now,
Let's talk about positives and negatives.
Okay. We could do that.
What was your question?
Oh, I was just going to ask you, you said that, or you got it in the mail, right?
Yeah.
Just to relate, I went to a midnight launch, which I've done, I think, 3 times in my life. This was the third. Wait, no, I've done it a couple of times. I did it for Dark Souls 3. I did it for Metal Gear Solid 5, none of which were huge things. I pretty much just showed up at midnight and got my copy. But the only ones I've ever waited in line for were for a Wii, which I waited literally 13 hours. I called the Walmart and was like, hey, is there a line for this already? This was at 10 a.m. They were like, yeah, there's about 20 people waiting. We only have 30 consoles. So I was like, fuck.
Holy shit.
So yeah, I went down and waited most of the day, got all my homework done and stuff. I waited midnight release for Brawl when that came out, and talk about a letdown. And then finally this one here, the Switch. And it was okay. It was cold as far as Texas gets cold. Pretty straightforward for about the first 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden there's a huge spike in the bow meter. Like whoever I was standing next to, their deodorant ran off or ran out, whatever you want to call it, wore off. And I spent the last 15 to 30 minutes just suffering the smell of sweat and swamp ass. And literally, this sounds like just a bad joke, but literally people arguing over who shot first, Han or Greedo. Which sounds like something that, someone half connected to tech culture might make, like, haha, that's the funny joke kids make, right? The nerds?
Yeah.
But except they were having a heated, real debate over who shot first. I was like, I never thought I would literally be in one of these situations. So,
hey, fellow nerds. Sorry to interject here in the podcast, but we're brought to you by Nerdbox. Do you want to know who shot first? Find out with a bunch of cool merchandise, including a Han shot first shirt. Oh, it's just me, Pee-wee. Sorry. It's like, nerd culture distilled into its most basic form is like, yeah, who shot first, bro?
Yeah.
Absolutely, like, so incredibly stereotypical. But you know what? If they're still talking about it, it must have been a big thing for them in their lives.
Yeah.
Also, the BO has definitely a lot to do with the excitement and them getting riled up.
Yeah, it was the anticipation was a little bit too much for them. As we got closer to midnight, they were just producing excess amounts of bodily fluid from their skin pores. So that was great. But anyway, then I got my Switch, went home, and everything was peachy. Positives and negatives, though. I'll let you go first. What do you like about the Switch?
First of all, I love the portability. I think it's great. Brought it with me to Boston, and got a chance to play at the hotel, and it was great. Got about 3 hours with Zelda, and if I really need more, I could just charge it with a portable battery charger. So I don't really love the battery life though, but if we're talking positives, we'll start with that. I think the screen is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great screen. The colors really pop. The UI is simple, needs updates, but at the moment, very, very quick. Whatever OS this thing has is extremely fast. I like the Joy-Cons a lot. I wasn't sure how I would feel about them, but they fit really nicely in my hands. I had a problem with my left Joy-Con, but I just sent that in to Nintendo to get it fixed, so that's a real issue, but we'll talk about that later. But the Joy-Cons are cool. I think they're interesting tech. I want to see how other people utilize them. That does not involve 1-2 switch. I have not experienced HD Rumble to its fullest effect, so I couldn't even tell you about that. And finally, I think the system being as it is, like, I'm able to pretty much pack the fucking thing up, throw it in my book bag, and bring it to a house, and we can just play. Like, I've already done it, and I've impressed people. Like, it was almost out of a commercial for the Switch. Like, when we first saw the trailer.
Rooftop? Where'd you
I
go?
did. You know, I was dressed real trendy too. We were drinking cucumber water. Sorry. Yeah, I couldn't think of it. Yeah, there's cucumber and ice in this big jug, and we were taking out scoops of cucumber water, and then we played the Switch.
Nice.
So I really, really enjoyed that. I got to do that, and I'm looking forward to bringing Mario Kart over my friend's house and playing it like that. And I mean, as a launch title, Breath. Fuck, I always do that. Breath of the Wild is probably one of the best launch titles for any system ever. So,
I agree.
So those are the positives.
Yeah,
Your positives.
I don't know if I have anything to add to those positives. I love the handheld mode. It took me about 2 hours of ownership before I was in the bathroom with it, and it was great.
Good. Christened it.
Yep. Yeah, got it nice and... What's the word for when you are... Oh, seasoning. I seasoned it. Okay.
You seasoned it.
Like a cast
with
iron
your spices.
Pan. I seasoned it. So, yeah, the portable feels great. The screen is very clear. The battery life is certainly good enough for me. At least I've never had too much of an issue with it. The Joy-Cons feel pretty good. They work decently as pointers, because I actually used it as a pointer for the game Human Resource Machine, which is a game I like. Played it on PC years ago, and then it came out on Switch, and I was like, I liked that game well enough, and it'd be a good handheld. I'll get it again. And that works really well. The touchscreen works well. It's just solid. I like the clean UI. I like the fast OS, like you brought up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you want to talk
Question,
negatives
do you have the Pro controller?
Oh, I did not get a Pro controller. I'm still debating. I think I might, because it looks pretty nice, and I hear that it's natively works on PC, and I like the thought of that too.
I have to say, it's the best controller I've ever owned.
Really?
Bold statement. There's some good controllers, like Xbox has a great one. PS3 has a good one, obviously. But for the price, with the HD Rumble in this thing, and the Amiibo sensor and all that, the buttons feel really good. The sticks are excellent. Yeah, I think this is a fantastic controller, and I rate it. The D-pad is excellent too. I would rate this among the best controllers I've ever used, and it just feels really solid. And I think playing Zelda with it is a joy. It's expensive as fuck, which sucks, but for all the tech you get in here and the long battery life, it's definitely been a very positive experience, and I don't feel like I was ripped off.
I think you've sold me, because I was on the fence. It's like, do I really need another controller? The Joy-Cons work fine. I've got some for PC. Now, when you use it on PC and it works natively, will just games that use 360 just use that instead and think it's 360, or how does that work?
I'm not even sure. I couldn't tell you. I just tested it once and it was fine. I tried it with Isaac, but
Okay.
yeah, I couldn't. I'd have to do more like research, or I'd have to look it up online.
Sure.
So, but it does. It uses Bluetooth, so you need a dongle.
Well, I got one of those. So negatives.
Well, why don't you start with the negatives?
Okay.
Your negatives.
Since we did hit the topic of the OS and the cleanliness of it, while I do really appreciate the efficiency, it feels empty. A lot of people give the Wii U and the Wii shit for being so bloaty with its, Plaza and all this extra production value and noises, but this is kind of the totally opposite end of the spectrum, where there's just no music. They use sound effects from classic Mario games when you select icons, and that's kind of cute, but there's no messaging of your friends, which just leads me to think, why have friends on the friends list if I can't shoot them, a dick pic? A Miiverse dick pic, of course.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I assume it's going to be for functionality like Splatoon, so I shouldn't knock it too hard on it. But it just feels a little overly sterile. And that's again, nitpicking. Other negatives.
Did you have the left Joy-Con issue?
I didn't, at least at first. I feel like it's happened every once in a while. It will desync. Like, I'll feel it, like Link will just kind of keep running for a second. I'll go, oh, that was weird. And then it just kicks back in. And it's been getting worse. That's what worries me, is it's the couple of times it has happened, it's been more intense than the previous time. But it's never been so much that I've had any major issues. So I don't think I do have the issue like you had.
How far do you sit from your Switch?
When I'm streaming, it's about like 3 feet away from me. When I'm
And do you have that problem when you're streaming?
Once or twice, yes. Whereas the
you
times I've noticed it the most... Sorry, go
You
ahead.
may have the issue. No, I'm just saying you may have the issue, but you might not have interference. That's
Sure.
my Switch is right near my wireless router, so I have all kinds of electronics just fucking this thing right up. So
the other big negative is Zelda is fantastic, but there isn't too much else yet. I actually own 4 games, which is, I didn't think I was even going to have that many. But the only one that's really a must-have is Zelda. Like, the other 3 I own were just personal choices, just because they looked neat and I wanted to have a couple more games on my Switch. And this is usually true of most consoles, I feel, but it could have had a stronger launch library. Otherwise, I know that there are some big glaring ones I'm probably missing. What negatives do you have?
Well, the left Joy-Con was just a shame, because that soured an otherwise nearly perfect experience. Like, I didn't have the dock sucks. It's scratching people's screens. I take this thing out of the dock like the Virgin Mary taking Christ out of the fucking barn or wherever it was. I really,
like the cradle.
Yeah, I coddle this thing, when I'm near the dock, because I don't want to get it scratched. So, and I also ordered screen protectors that didn't come yet. But so that's definitely, I think the dock is a fucking piece of shit. The stand that the Wii U has, the one that you put the controller on?
Yeah, teeny tiny little.
And it sits kind of at an angle, like a diagonal angle.
Yep.
Think about that, but with the Switch.
Yeah.
Where instead of the screen even having the potential to get scratched, you just sit it vertically, or even maybe a little bit diagonal. It wouldn't look great, but at the end of the day, you're going to avoid scratches and you're going to avoid contact. So that was my idea for a way to alleviate that problem. So there's... Huh?
Well, I was going to say, but don't you want the toaster? You know what they say.
All toasters toast.
Yep. So you won't be able to make toast anymore, though, if you had a stand like that. But so
that's fine. The other thing I have is, the library's a little weak. I have the indie games are definitely making up for the lack of stuff to do on it. Like
Sure.
Isaac just came out. Fast RMX is cool if you're into F-Zero. There's Blaster Master, which I haven't tried yet, but I have it. Mm-hmm. And Shovel Knight, I played Spectre Knight on it all the way through, and it's still great. It's still a great game. Mm-hmm. So, there is stuff. It's indie games that are picking up the slack. Overall, I would say Zelda is a must-have. 1-2 Switch, I don't even want to look at 1-2 Switch or hear about it. It's such a weird thing that they would charge full price for that.
Yeah, because it's clear that they wanted to have a Wii Sports. At least to me, that's what... Because with the Wii Sports was the thing that you would bring your Wii to your fucking grandma's house and be like, hey, check this out. And it just came with your Wii, and that was one of the reasons the Wii sold so well. And here, I think they wanted to emulate that, like that thing where you bring it to a party and you're like, hey, check out my Switch. And instead... 1-2 Switch, they said, okay, well, everyone's going to want this, right? So that they can show it to their grandma. So let's charge for it and make extra money out of it. Except it didn't quite work out the way they expected. It helped that Wii Sports was free, and I probably would have got it at the time for the novelty. But now that I'm more learnt than I was back then, I wouldn't in this day and age. Now that I'm more woke, I'm more red-pilled on it. Then I probably would not get Wii Sports for that in the same way. I have no urge whatsoever to get 1-2 Switch, if that's a fair assessment.
I think that's great. I understand the impetus for a game like 1-2 Switch. Here's a game that's going to utilize our new HD Rumble, and it's going to be a game you can take anywhere, and you don't even have to look at the screen. You can just... kind of get the rules, and then you look in your opponent's eye. Like, okay, that the seed of what that game was might have worked if it was, again, included with the system, or just tech demos that you could download for free. Just to see, listen, instead of hiring actors to like act out milking fake cows, just make little graphics and or just have the rules on the screen so you can get the feel for what this thing can do. Make it like 5 mini games, maybe 10, and then it's great. It's a party trick, and that's not what we got. We got a full priced game with weird production values in the wrong spots. So I think it's just a bizarre thing, and I feel like the Switch could have been better utilized with a game more like Wii Sports, or even, listen, Nintendo Land was cool as fuck.
Oh yeah, I like it. It
had
Nintendo
some
Land.
Great stuff on there. It just, again, it wasn't bundled with every system. Mm-hmm. So some people didn't get it. They didn't experience it, and it was sadly on a console that people didn't get or want. So, but anyway, 1-2 Switch, I think it's just a bizarre choice of everything. Other than that, I think it is a good system. The negatives of the battery life, sure, I understand that. The dead pixels people were having complaints about, that seems to be just a thing with electronics in general. But Nintendo's tech support, I did call them. I got them within 3 minutes on the phone, and they sent me an overnight shipping label to print out. Nice. And they were great. So, they're at least taking care of stuff. I have an assessment that this is the early access version of the Switch. Meaning, instead of a holiday launch, what they did was they said, okay, if you want the Switch now, you can get it, and you can get it with Zelda, which you can also get on the Wii U. And I feel like in the next 7 months or so, they're going to work out a lot of the kinks, and they're going to have a better OS. They're going to have non-fucked up Joy-Cons. Maybe they'll have a replacement dock. And, they're going to be able to patch these things as they go along. And by the holiday, there's going to be a great library of games. and there's going to be a lot to choose from. So we're in some ways getting what I feel to be an early look at this thing. It's a solid look, but it's not perfect. And the fact that the friends list is like you just said, that is a perfect example. It seems obvious, but again, I feel like it was just, let's get the most basic shit out so that it works. Focus on that, and then after it's out, we can iterate.
Yeah, I could see that. But at the same time, would they gamble one of their most vital launches in a long time on was essentially a beta version of their new infrastructure for their new console?
No.
Maybe. I mean, because the marketing was so solid that, let's face it, doesn't matter how good this thing was, it was going to sell pretty well, at least at launch. And you're right.
Really good marketing.
Yeah, as it gets refined, because now that a ton of people own it, as it gets refined, people will voice that to the people who don't own it, and then you're right. Maybe by the holiday season, it'll usher in a new crowd. Mario Odyssey will probably come out right around that time, so there will be a nice new shiny thing that they can get with their new console. There's a lot
on top of all the other cool stuff too, possibly even Skyrim for holiday season, which that's going to sell to a lot of hardcore gamers for portable Skyrim.
Yeah, I'll finally have a way to play Skyrim. Yeah, not that I haven't had about 5 other ways to play it. No, I played a little bit of Skyrim before once.
I put about 60 hours in it.
I got maybe 20 hours, and that's over the course of 2 playthroughs from the beginning, getting to around level 10, 11, 12, and then just kind of getting bored. But,
that's the problem. I get bored.
It's a very... I think Skyrim has a lot of issues that plague most open world games, which, now that we've been shown the light with Zelda, which I gotta say is probably the best open world game I've ever played, in my opinion.
Me too.
They nailed it. They knocked it out of the goddamn park with this game. I love this game so much.
I agree.
That's
a great transition, by the way.
Thinking about it. Thank you. I just get giddy just talking about Zelda because of how good I think this game is, and how they pretty much, like, if I went back and listened to our last episode where we talked about our hopes and wants for Zelda, I think this got good 90% of those. So
I think it surpassed some of my expectations. Listen, dude, I get excited thinking about it. Like, I think about Zelda sometimes, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to play that again. I have, I want to do this. I want to upgrade this armor set. I want to check out this area that I didn't fully scout. I mean, and I still have, I did 2 dungeons. I still have half the map remaining, or a little less than half. But I don't feel like I'm even close to done. Like, I feel like there's so much extra shit that I could be doing to just fill time. And I want to do all that extra stuff because the game is not just beautiful. I like spending time in this Hyrule. I like being in the forests when it turns nighttime and like a star is falling. And I like being in a forest when there's like a deer that runs by. And I enjoy the music. I enjoy the atmosphere. I enjoy the way Link controls. He's the most... And if for an open world game, like Witcher, I like Witcher a lot. I think it's a fantastic game. And I think Witcher 3 excels where Zelda falls a bit short. And that's in the story department.
Yes. And that was going to be one of my very few issues that I have with this game, is that the story still isn't anything crazy, which is fine because the game doesn't need a crazy story. But yeah, no. I mean, when you get to a new dungeon and they will talk at length about their predicament with the divine beast of whichever town they're at, and what's making it happen with them, and what befell the previous champion, and like especially the Zora one was really bad. They went on and on and on and on, and I was just like, okay.
But dude, Prince Sidon was so cool.
Oh yeah, Shark Husbando, as many have branded him. He was
a descendant of Poseidon.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't make that connection. But yeah, the story's weak. That's all there is to it. The production values are great. Like when the king reveals himself as King Rome Shala Hyrule,
That happens in the first hour, so that's not a spoiler. But
Not a spoiler.
I guess if you're really, really trying to avoid Zelda spoilers, we're not going to go into them. We're not going to go into them.
Not too deeply.
So don't worry about it too much. But I'll say this. If you want to experience the game totally blind, you got to get started soon, son. Because this thing's been out for a few weeks now. So you go do that and then you come back. But
Dude,
we're not going to do any spoilers.
Get it on Wii U. If you don't have a Switch, I'm telling you now, if you have a Wii U, or if you don't, it's probably more inexpensive, and it's worth it to play Zelda that much sooner, because that's how good this game is.
Yes.
But yeah, anything that might sound like a super big spoiler, well, first off, if you are worried, if you're really strict about spoilers, why the fuck are you listening? Go play it. Just stop the podcast right now, because there's more to come. But otherwise, we're not going to hit anything too major. Anything that seems super spoily, I promise you it's really not. So anyway, there are moments where, like, for example, the king pops up at the very beginning of the game, and the old Hyrule Castle theme kind of lingers on with the oboe part, going into the classic, oh, let me tell you the backstory of the big bad thing that happens in every Zelda game.
Yeah.
It still gave me chills. I was just like, okay, this is still Zelda, and that's what worried me, is that it would be so different that it wouldn't be Zelda anymore. But somehow it rethinks all the conventions of old Zeldas. It doesn't hold your hand like the old ones. It's super open. You can go in any order. It's like bringing Zelda 1 structure back, but with a fully realized world. It just rethinks all those conventions, but it's still Zelda. Like, it's still all the enemies we love. It still has Link. It's not Linkle or anything like that. It's still Link, so I'm okay. Being sarcastic, but anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Point is, it's still Zelda. It still feels like a Zelda game. It still feels like it has this magical world. Probably more of that feeling than the last 3 games combined.
Agreed.
When I'm just exploring, pretty much everywhere is worth going. At worst, it's a Korok, which even still, they're not so bad just because they're so brief that, like, it's not even a thought.
I love the little puzzles that you have to solve to get them.
Yeah, they get a little repetitive, but they're never so like, oh, another one of these, that I feel with some other open world games. On the other hand, at best, you explore the mysterious whatever the fuck mountaintop you see just for the hell of it, and you're rewarded hugely. Like, I'm shocked at how often there's this one instance of a shrine quest or a optional boss, or a magical mythical creature, or just events that happen where I'm just like, holy shit, I was just expecting another fucking Korok and I got this. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I love exploring, and I love being rewarded with things that are actually useful and not like low-level trash gear because I leveled up past it. Not having a leveling system is one of my favorite things about this game. It proves you can do a deep, long RPG without needing experience points. Not that needed to be proven, but there it is anyway.
No, you're right. You're totally right.
I also feel like the original Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 had this pervading darkness. Like, I love Zelda 2 because it's like, when you die, it says the eyes of Ganon are everywhere. And I was always like kind of afraid about that, like, when I was a kid, because the princess is asleep. People are afraid. In towns, some people turn into monsters.
Like, there's
clan. Yeah. I mean, so in some ways, this game retains that imposing sense of doom and Zelda-ness that the first few games kind of imparted better than anything recently has done in this series, and I love that. And also the fact that as soon as you start the game, you're looking at Hyrule Castle and there's Ganon. You have this connection with him immediately. Now, and almost everywhere you go in the world, you see the castle and you see Ganon, or you think about, like, that castle's fucked. Zelda's locked in a power struggle. That's not a spoiler, but you see Ganon. He's fighting Zelda. If it is a spoiler, I apologize. But I guess that's within the first hour you learn that, right?
Yeah, it's super early.
So the point is, though, that you get a connection, you get this feeling that the world is fucked, and you get this kind of sense of right in the middle of the whole kingdom, is this thing that's waiting to go off, this terrible thing, and it's always around you. Any mountaintop, you see Hyrule Castle. Any place that has a clear view, you see Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
And it's fucking cool. It's really creepy and it's really cool.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like there's some technical magic at work that it does something to collapse the distance of faraway things so that it's still viewable and it feels like it's right there even if it's miles away. Like you said, you can see the castle from anywhere and you're like, you feel like, oh, it's just right fucking there. Like there's Death Mountain, there's the castle, oh, there's some weird flying thing over there. You can see everything from all the way across the map. I feel there's some, I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it. It's like an optical trick to make those things like that make the distance collapse, you know.
That's an interesting observation. I got to think about that next time I play. Yeah,
everything always looks a little like way closer than it actually is, and then you start to make your way there, and inevitably get distracted by 10 million things. It's great.
I like getting distracted. I think it's funny because a lot of people I know that initially had issues with the game that were expecting, you know, hand-holdy Zelda, which is fine. I like those games too, but when people, like my friend Bill, I told him, I was like, dude, just turn your brain off. Don't worry about objectives.
Sure.
Explore. Get lost. You see something, go find it. Fuck with it. And when he said when he started playing the game like that, he enjoyed it much more.
Yeah.
Because he felt overwhelmed at first. But then when he realized that the world was at his beck and call, that's when it opened up to him.
Yeah, totally. It's just it's very consistent too. Like just you're constantly almost constantly discovering new things, just constantly building up your arsenal and your hearts at, you know, the same rate that you're exploring the world. Like there's never the pacing is just spot on, which to do that with an open world game is just totally insane.
Staggering
from a design perspective. So just I'm totally shocked by how remarkably consistent it is. One thing I'll say too, and I heard about this on, again, the Video Games Hot Dog podcast, and I agree with it so much I wanted to bring it up. Zelda solves the open world conundrum of marrying the plot with the wanderlust, where in other games like Fallout, wait, no, maybe this wasn't the podcast. I forget where I heard it. Anyway,
this was a video.
I'm plagiarizing
Game Maker's Toolkit.
Yes, there you go. I was gonna say I plagiarized this from somebody. I'm not gonna let myself get off the hook for that. But I do want to kind of regurgitate it to our listeners because it is a nice nugget of insight. In other games like Fallout, as a good example, you wake up and you're like, oh shit, they kidnapped my son. I gotta find my son. And then you go off to explore the wasteland for 30 fucking hours, and then maybe also find your son along the way. And it's weird trying to marry that plot with your want to just like sate your curiosity. On the other hand, with Zelda, they say, okay, your quest is to defeat Ganon. You can go now if you want to. You'll probably get your shit wrecked. We recommend you go, you know, build yourself up first, but your goal is to defeat Ganon. And as a result, everything you do feels like it's working towards just Link's preparation for this fight.
You're training for the fight. Yeah.
So it feels good because there's no subconscious guilt. There's no subconscious, oh, it's a video game type thing. It all feels so natural and feels so good. It feels so right.
and the story is not, I agree. And the story is doled out in a non-linear fashion because of the flashbacks. Like you find out what happened years ago. You can find out in any order. And every dungeon like has their own story, so you're not necessarily, the game is not event A happens, then B, then C, then D. It's point A, and then here's the fourth dimension of whatever you want to happen all at the same time, whenever you want it to happen, because there's a very simple plot here. It's Link must defeat Ganon. That's it. The first objective you get. It's defeat Ganon. It's right there.
Yeah, main quest.
The rest of it is all just for fun.
Yeah, it's great. And speaking of the dungeons, when as the game as they began to show more about the game, I knew that they had really gone balls to the wall with overhauling it and rethinking the conventions and just trying new things and forgetting about the formula. But in my mind, if there was going to be anything that was going to be just like the older games, in my mind, it was the dungeons. I thought, okay, well, they have the shrines, but any big dungeons they have are just still going to be Zelda dungeons. Even the fucking dungeons, when you get into them and you're given this weird 3D mini-map and you're immediately just in a foreign, like a totally reworked idea of what a Zelda dungeon is. It still has, its puzzles, and it still has, different rooms, some lots of chests, which is kind of a throwback to the old Zeldas, like the SNES one, where there were a lot of optional chests. So tons and tons of those to reward you for really exploring the dungeons. Basically, the dungeons are more like these open spaces. It's not like you have to go to certain rooms in order to get to others. So some people will like that, some people won't, but I was just shocked by even the dungeons they just tried something totally different with.
And not just tried, but actually succeeded.
Yes.
Some people aren't crazy about the dungeons because they're a little short. I think they're perfect because the shrines make up for that.
Yes.
The shrines being the puzzles and the combat challenges in a way that you don't get bored because you're not slogging through a 2-hour long dungeon. You're going through like a 45-minute long dungeon.
Yeah.
Four times, maybe a little longer.
Right
size. And then there's a great build up before, and there's a little bit after with the boss stuff. So I mean, you get a good chunk of stuff with these dungeons, but the stuff that most people would consider to be a traditional dungeon puzzle are throughout the world. Yep. So whenever you're a little bit bored of exploring, or whenever you start to feel like, oh, I didn't find anything in a little while, there's a shrine. Have fun, and then you're rewarded well.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's the dungeons are cool too. I agree.
And this is probably going to be the start of the nitpicking or the negatives conversation, which again I have to stress because whenever I think of a game critically, or I start to nitpick thing, I inevitably get tons of Twitter comments and YouTube comments saying, oh, I'm too harsh, or why does KY hate this game? To reiterate, this is the best game I've played, best AAA game I've played in an extremely long time. I love this game. But anyway, now on to the nitpicking. This game, man, they could have done so much better. What were they thinking? No, but seriously, the dungeons, if I had to have a big issue with the dungeons, is they kind of feel empty. Like, I feel even it could be solved very simply, either just by putting a couple of more enemies in them.
Agreed.
Like, the space is okay. Like, the sizes are generally fine. I love that you have to manipulate the dungeon, because that's just a really unique thing. If they just put in a couple of more hazards or enemies, it would just feel
mini bosses.
Yeah, it would just feel a little bit more variety in the dungeons, and make them feel a bit more, fleshed out. Because as it is, they're just a little.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And same thing with the bosses. The dungeon bosses they're spoilers coming up, I guess. This is going to be one of the more spoilery things. They're almost the same thing 4 times in a row. As far as I can tell, I've done 3 of them, and they're all extremely similar. So the bosses, I kind of miss having unique bosses. Even in the Zelda games where I forget the dungeons, like Skyward Sword, I can remember 2 dungeons from that game, or 3 maybe. Or Twilight Princess, I can remember maybe 3 dungeons. I almost always remember the bosses. So even the easier ones from Wind Waker, I remember pretty distinctly, because thematically, or what they actually physically were interesting. In this case, it's just the same thing, and the fights are just straightforward. So
it's very straightforward combat using the skills that you've been using, the combat skills that you've been using and developing.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because I also have a problem with use the item once, then hit a bunch, then reset. Use the item again. Rinse and repeat. Okay, now phase 2, you use the item 3 times, slightly differently. Then when he drops, you hit the eyeball again about 10 times with your sword, then it dies.
Yeah, that was that got so old in the other Zeldas. And I still prefer the fights of these new bosses, because it feels like combat. It feels like the old Zeldas, where bosses just had a move set, and you need to adapt to the move set and overcome them once you've learned it. That's the format they went back to. The bosses have movesets, and you can use whatever you want to overcome it and kill the boss. It's not, the bosses aren't puzzles anymore, they're actual fights. So that's very welcoming. Even if the bosses, their forms themselves are very are going to ultimately be forgettable. So
however,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just say this. I feel like in the future, if they stick with this open world format, they can certainly throw in an item in the dungeon. It doesn't have to be mandatory to progress through the story. It could just be a fun item. Like, you know, some kind of strange elemental weapon or item that you only get in that dungeon that can be used on the boss, so that the boss has the puzzle elements of the previous games, you know, a little bit, but then the rest of it's pure combat. But you have to think, because some of the, you know, the older games had some really interesting uses of those items. So it would be nice to have a little bit of that back. I understand their fear, and they're like, no, we're not doing dungeon items because we don't want to limit the player.
Right.
But maybe it could just be an item that's totally optional just for fun and not something that you need to actually progress through the story.
Sure.
So, sorry, continue now.
On that note,
apologies.
I was worried because as the early previews of the game came out, and they were all really good, they all assured you that despite getting all of your abilities during the tutorial, essentially, they assured you that this was going to be one of the best games you've ever played. And I just kind of had to take their word for it, because in my mind I was like, well, I like getting new items. I'm going to miss having this huge arsenal of things. But turns out most, or at least a lot of those items are still present, just in the form of being weapons that you collect anyway, like fire rods, ice rods, lightning rods, boomerangs came back. They're not an item slot anymore. They're just a weapon that you can pick up, and they still behave like a boomerang, where you think, oh, well, I can throw my swords and stuff. If I throw the boomerang, will it come back? Of course it fucking will. It's a boomerang. Using the throw on a fire rod to shoot bigger, you know, directed fireballs. Just, they consolidated the item, the inventory. Yeah, they consolidate it all into just your basic weapon inventory, and I love that. I think that's great. They all still have their very unique uses. Korok leaf, same thing. And except now they're just weapons you select, so they do still have a ton of those items. Not all of them. There's no hook shot, which is surprising, because I feel like it would work well with the world. But most of those items are still in the game. They're just in a different form, and they work really well. So
I think that's a great assessment. I didn't even consider that the hook shot wasn't in this game, but
as far as I know,
there's
so far.
I don't think it is either. But the thing is, there's so much room for, if they stick with this, they could bring back some of the Zelda conventions and keep the open world format. So I'm not entirely unconvinced that they can't dole out a few items as you go along.
Sure.
You know, but still have it so that you're not restricted. Maybe if you get the hook shot in Dungeon 2, you can then find some more Koroks. You know, like, it's nothing major, but now you'll get to find a few extra things. That would keep it a little more Metroid-y, like where you get the item and then you can go to the new place, but without restricting you behind a wall of, you know, like, you know, you have to do this so you can get to level 2 so you can see the cutscene we made for you.
Yeah. To experience the experience we want you to experience.
I was joking around about people that would go straight to Hyrule Castle and fucking, like, just raid the items, defeat Ganon, spend like 2-3 hours, 4 hours really, really going hard, using save states, etc., defeating Ganon, and then just turning the game off and never playing it again.
Well, and even more shocking, because they said, yeah, you can go straight to Hyrule Castle if you'd like. You can do anything you want. The game, in something I totally did not expect, the game actually encourages that you go there early several times. It says you'll probably get your shit wrecked, but it throws it out there. It gives you side quests to say, hey, there's a fucking cookbook in the castle. Why don't you go get it? And you're like, oh shit.
I know all about that cookbook.
Yeah. You really want me to go there now? Like, the game actually does taunt you and encourage you to do that, to let you know, hey, it's okay if you want to do that. You're not going to ruin the game. And that's so cool.
Did you go there?
The first thing I did leaving the plateau is run as close to the castle as I could, and I got to the point where I was in the castle grounds, and then I warped out. So I didn't do much.
Okay, because I was looking for that fucking cookbook for like 2 hours, dude. I spent my second stream ever, my second time playing the game ever, in Hyrule Castle for like 2 hours. I got the Hylian shield on my second stream.
Wow.
Yeah, but I also never found that goddamn cookbook, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not real. It's not real. It's a recipe, and you have to memorize the recipe. So sorry to spoil that for you, but the thing about it is, it still is a quest. You still have to go to Hyrule to get the recipe.
Sure.
But I was looking for a cookbook that didn't exist, and as a result, I ended up spending more time in Hyrule Castle than I wanted to, and I saw maybe half of what it had to offer.
Wow.
So goodness. I spoiled quite a bit for myself, yeah.
Yeah, I just got into the castle grounds and then left, pretty much. So, what was I going to say? There's just so much good to say about this game. The combat is great, which we briefly touched on with the items.
Very
it's just
satisfying.
Very dynamic. Yeah.
Fluid. Moves very nicely because of the weapon durability system, which people don't like, but I like because it encourages you to use all of your weapons. I throw weapons away. I have good weapons. I use them whenever I get them. Fuck it. Because I'm going to get more. I get so many good weapons that I can throw away old weapons.
Yeah.
And that to me makes me feel good because then I can use a spear. I don't have to like hoard the spear. I'm going to use the spear, and then I'm going to use the hammer, and then I'm going to use the swords, and I'm going to have fun because I'm not using the same weapon for like 2 hours.
And it's important to trust the game that it will constantly give you new weapons, because it does. It's tuned in such a way that you're meant to always be picking up new weapons, which one of my other gripes with the game was, especially early on before you can expand your inventory, was constantly, oh, your inventory's full, drop a weapon.
Yeah,
There's a lot of that early on, but at the same time, it's another way of the game to tell you it's okay. Use your weapons. Let them break. We'll give you fucking more weapons than you can handle, and they'll always get more powerful. And as they get more powerful, they do actually get pretty durable. Like, it's still not perfect. You'll still get things, pretty much everything break sooner or later. But it's not like the beginning of the game where they're breaking every 2 seconds, you know? So as you get more powerful weapons, it fills out your inventory with those powerful weapons because they stick around a little bit longer. And before you know it, you just have an arsenal of really cool weapons, and you just use whatever the fuck you want. Did it break? That's fine. You'll just get another one. The game makes it clear that it wants you to just use all your weapons, that it's always going to be giving you more weapons. It's tuned that way. So, like you, I actually like the durability system. I think it might be a little strong, especially early on, just as a first impression.
Agreed.
Like, fuck, everything's
It is a little
breaking.
strong.
So it's a little off-putting at first, but, you know, I have almost zero issues with it now. I still, even with an almost max inventory slot, I still get, you know, your weapons, your slots are full. But I think it's because I have a lot of high durability weapons, so that might be why too. But I do have that issue every once in a while still.
I avoid picking up certain weapons on purpose because I just don't want to deal with the menus. One of the reasons I quit Skyrim is because I just kept hoarding, and it's like, oh, I need to bring this. I need to bring this. Okay, I can't leave this back. I have to bring this, and I ended up like having only 30 pounds at all times out of like 400, you know. And I'm walking around with like a fucking pack mule, and I'm like collecting like berries and going over my weight limit. And that, to me, is what killed Fallout and Skyrim early.
Totally.
Whereas I'm 50 hours. I'm at the point where I quit, like Skyrim and Fallout, and I'm still going and still enjoying it. And the other thing is, like, the inventory is simple. It's just divided into. It's not weight. It's slots.
Yep.
Very, very good. It's simple. You don't have to worry about too much. And the other thing is, the Korok seeds obviously expand your inventory, so you really want to find them. I enjoy finding those little fuckers. I mentioned earlier, like, if I get angry when I don't hear that little yahaha. I need that yahaha once every 10 minutes or so. Otherwise, I start getting irate. And when Vinny gets irate, he turns into the Hulk. So I need the yahaha. And once I get it, it's like, thank you, little Korok fella. You are the best. I love you. And then I find another one. So it's great to find them, and they're actually useful, and they're extremely, for me, someone who likes to, collect different cool weapons, it's nice to have variety of, say, 20 slots as opposed to your initial starting slots.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Notice the only thing that they limit you in is in weaponry, like shields, bows, and weapons, because they want you to constantly be trying new things, to be cycling through them as you pick up new ones. Everything else, fuck it. It's unlimited. I don't give a fuck. You can carry as many as you want. Link will find a spot for it somewhere. That's great.
Food is limited.
Is it really?
Cooked food, yeah. You get 3 pages.
Oh, see, I've never hit the slot. Okay, I've never hit the max, so it's a non-issue for me.
3 pages is more than enough.
Yeah. For me, it's been a non-issue then, but that could be an issue for others. But point is, it's never you are over encumbered, or it's never you never turn into that pack mule where you constantly just have to drop things due to weight limits or other nonsense from open worlds, because who the fuck thought any of that was a good idea? Does anyone like encumbrance systems in video games? Anyone, please email me at this web zone. Tell me.
Yeah, or tweet me at me so I can block you.
Like that, I can't think of a single game that employed that kind of system that I enjoyed that part about it. So I'm A-okay with that. It's like the appeal at Nintendo where, like, let's take the things that work great in open games, take the things that work great in Zelda, and throw in a couple of new things too. Let's keep the quests all mostly very interesting, and the ones that do repeat, keep them brief. Just everything about it it's just so well thought out and so well designed. And just the polish about it, like the animations, the interactions. Yeah. The only other big gripe is Zelda's voice actress is a bit of a trash fire. I hate to say it.
I don't like Zelda's voice actress very much. I don't like most of the voice acting in this game. The Deku Tree sounds like someone from State Farm, like trying to sell me insurance, and like a slightly mysterious, dark voice. And it's like, all right, if you're gonna do a tree, you got to get real deep in the voice, almost like Gandalf. And I'm like hearing, "Hello, Link. It is I, the great Deku Tree." It just felt really. I mean, listen. I think all the voice actors, to me, are doing a fine, serviceable job at the very least. If you're going to be generous,
and it's
some
so
of them
not
do
important,
worse.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so not important to the plot that even with a mediocre job on the voice acting, I don't knock. In my mind, it doesn't knock the game much. Like, yes, it's a criticism I have of the game, but it doesn't lessen my experience one bit. Like, it's not like if Zelda's voice actress was better, or I should say if Zelda's voice was better, that I would suddenly be like, man, this game is so enhanced now. I feel this is it. What a masterpiece. No, I mean, it would be better, and I wouldn't make 2 fucks of a difference on my experience, because my experience has been great. So.
Agreed. It's such a good game that little minor things. I'll tell you a few quick things about my experience. Like, a lot of the 10 out of 10s were a detriment to this game because fail. Sure. Because that's just how the internet is, and it's fine. I mean, I think it's stupid if you are rooting for a game to suck. That's just like, well, how does that help anyone? Because remember, this game it took things from Skyrim, it took things from The Witcher, it took things from open world games. Aonuma even said he was looking at other games in this genre so he can get ideas and to see what refinements the industry has achieved, and then he could build on that. This is a good thing. Yeah, the towers were from Far Cry. I mean, the thing about it is, it's good that Nintendo is looking outside themselves at other great games. This game being good raises the bar for all open world games. So anyone should fucking be happy that this game is good. So people can be like, oh, wait a minute, we can do this? You mean we don't need a fucking endurance limit with the weight? You mean we can do this and make the open world feel much more amalgamous to exploration, and not just like, well, you have to do all these objectives, and if you get distracted, that's fine too. But no, the point of this game is exploration. Anyway, the point I was trying to make before is the 10 out of 10s are a detriment in some ways because people are saying, whenever I encounter a glitch, or whenever I encounter bad voice acting, or whenever I encounter like just a dumb moment,
Yeah.
How do you feel about your perfect game now?
Yeah,
Still
so
a 10
much
out of
for
10?
your perfect game. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Yeah.
The thing is, the 10 out of 10 doesn't mean it doesn't have problems.
Yep.
There's frame rate issues. There are some glitches. There are some strange voice acting things. Maybe the dungeons aren't perfect, but overall, I get why people are giving it a 10. I may not agree, but it's the most fun I think you could have with a video game. The most fun you can spend your $60 on.
Sure.
Available right now. And that's usually reserved for games in the past like Mario 64 or Ocarina or even Metroid Prime, maybe GTA 5, where it wasn't necessarily a perfect experience throughout. They maybe had a few problems, a few glitches, but the game sets out to do something and it achieves its goal with flying colors, and it really, really is just a great time.
It was a it was a breath of new life in the Zelda franchise.
Really was.
Yeah, a little bit of old life mixed with some new life into some strange kin of life to the Zelda series.
Yeah,
it's just so good. I could literally as I go in my mind, it's like, oh, I got to talk about this. I got to talk about this. There's just so many great things to say. But unfortunately, we should probably get going. I do got to work. It's a little bit late. So we can talk more about Zelda next time, because I think next time we record, we'll be looking at the launch title for the Switch 2, the follow-up to Breath of the Wild, so we can talk about that on the next episode.
There will be 4 new Minionz movies that we haven't watched.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but seriously, we will do Minionz next episode. Next episode is the episode. So we will commentate the Minionz movie. Why did I promise this? I don't know why
you just like to see us suffer?
Yeah, a little bit of masochism, I guess. But we'll also get to talk a little bit about, as we get towards the end game of Zelda, if it lives up to the long haul. And I guess I'm getting there. You're probably halfway-ish. So, in any case, we're gonna have to wrap it up there. So, yeah. All right. Well, this has been fun, Vin. It's good talking to you again.
You too. Good to get your thoughts on all this. I'm glad we have so many similar viewpoints on the Switch, Zelda, and otherwise.
On the Marz Volta and on eSportz.
Yeah, it was a good podcast. I enjoyed it very much. And I just want to say San Fangles.
All right, San Fangles. Catch you next time, everybody.